welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you taking the time to review my channel and provide you the continuation of all the things to discuss about the federal government process, employee process. As I discussed in my last video, this video is going to move from the individual development plan, and we're going to jump right into the performance work plan, known in the workplace as a PWP. Before we get into that, I would like to take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That way you can get new videos every time I post something new. Without further ado, let's get into it. The PWP basically is just another required document that supervisors are required to fill out. The employee fills out the individual development plan, and the supervisor assists in collaboration with the employee to fill out the performance work plan. This is going to govern your activities and objectives for the entire work year. This affords the supervisor an opportunity to discuss, what are the goals and objectives of not only the agency, which will be in line with your strategic plan goals and objectives, or what that unit that you're going to be working for, what do they require you to do within the next rating period, basically. The other phase will be that this will serve as your initial counseling to sit down and talk about what your objectives are and expectations, your roles, your responsibilities and duties for the upcoming year. Of course, that will be important because that's going to lead in later on as we start talking about finalizing your mid-year and your end of the year evaluation, which becomes quite really important to you as an employee. And it also serves as a dialogue between you and your supervisor throughout the entire year, that you can kind of keep the conversation going as to identifying some of the things that you're doing good or not doing well, so that way they have an opportunity to either counsel, mentor, and coach you through the entire process. The next area we're going to jump into is, what is this performance management all about? So this performance management that we were really talking about basically would be good for every agency, right? We need to know what is the plan moving ahead. What is it that we're really trying to achieve? So everybody in the organization is well aware of the mission, what are the objectives, and how we plan to manage those employees. We really need to take a look at that. We also need to take a look at the supervisor. The supervisor needs to have the means to monitor the employee. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Do we need to schedule some on-the-job training? Do we need to schedule that employee to some type of skill set training? That may require budget. How much money is in the budget to send that employee to some type of school or certification? All of that helps benefit the employee. It also helps the supervisor look at the positive things that the employee has achieved during the rating period and the things that may negatively impact the organization or the employee. No one wants to see an employee fail, but if the employee is just not getting it, they're just not being a productive member of the team, we want to identify those things early and set the employee on the right path. And then at the end, we want to kind of simplify this, right? We want to make sure that the supervisor recognizes the employee for their accomplishments throughout the year. Did they do something above and beyond the scope of the performance of their duties? Were they an outside thinker? Did they create something that might be suitable or beneficial to the agency? Because again, as times and trends change, we need change thinkers. We need people that is willing to adapt to change or come up with those creative thoughts that is going to improve your unit, right? So with that said, we're going to kind of jump into the 3 cycles of this. All right, so let us jump right back into these so-called cycles that we're talking about. Regardless of where you go, it may change from agency to agency, but every agency has some type of scheme of how they want to break this thing down. Even going back to my military days, they were still, you had to come up with three ways, there could be more, that you can evaluate the process. So you need your initial. So your initial could be for new employees. So when they come on board, you kind of sit down and have this initial counseling, talk about, all the things that we need to try to work on throughout the year and improve upon. Or it may be at the beginning of that initial cycle, which is usually that October time frame where we're closing out and we're opening up the new fiscal year. Again, we talked about mid-year. Mid-year is an opportunity for the supervisor to basically talk about your strengths, weakness, so in the middle of the rating period that the supervisors are observing your efforts, and we're just trying to help you along the way. And then finally, the end of the year cycle. The end of the year cycle is quite beneficial to the employee. Number one, it lets the employee know how well you did throughout the year, and you either achieved success or there were areas that you were lacking in, so that way you can focus on changing that for yourself and the agency at the beginning of the new rating period. There's always been a question as to, should your work performance plan be in line with the agency's strategic plan? I would say the answer would be yes. There are a number of factors why plans for the agency change. Especially in the federal government, things are ever evolving, rapidly moving, constant change. So it may behoove the employee to make sure that whatever those new trends or objectives, they're in line with that. We may have a new administration or new bosses that may be budgetary for, say, restraints. Maybe the mission or the organization has shifted. You want to make sure your plan is in line with that, so you're actually getting the credit for the work that you're actually performing. I don't want to rate you on one thing when you actually did something else. So it's beneficial to make sure that those plans are basically in line. So let's jump into the overall ratings. All right, so what are those overall ratings? Depending on the agency, there are generally like 3 rating schemes. Either you're fully successful, you are minimally successful, or you're just unacceptable. I think I don't really need to get into unacceptable. We just discussed previously, if the employee is just not performing for a number of reasons, it's up to the supervisor to kind of deal with that head on. What I want to talk about basically is fully successful. I think every employee generally should hit fully successful, because if you come to work every day, you kind of do what's expected of you, supervisor is going to give you fully successful. Now, there are those that rise above the occasion, and there's benefits to that. I will say without a doubt that employees should be given every opportunity to rise above the occasion. I don't think that a supervisor should have any ill will to hold an employee back. Everybody becomes a valuable member of the team, and we should award them for their effort. So how do we award them? Now, there are a number of ways that we can award that employee, and there are some benefits to that. So let's jump into what the benefits are to being successful, fully successful and beyond. All right, so what are some of the benefits, if you will, when you have a success evaluation? Well, this can come in a couple of different categories. I would venture to say probably the lowest one, depending on the agency's budget, of course, is they'll provide you with time off award. That's kind of the lowest that I've seen that some employees would get. I've seen some as high as a day, 16 hours or more of time off, because they just didn't have the budget to to give you some monetary awards, right? The other one will be the QSI, which is the quality step increases, and this is a in-grade increase. some supervisors may not be aware that within the Office of Personnel Management, that they have the ability to provide this pay increase. So for example, if you are GS-12 in the federal government, it goes, as I discussed in the other videos, that it goes to step 10. So if 1, 2, and 3 is automatic. However, supervisors can bump you up to one step if your performance was that outstanding. For whatever reason, supervisors overlook this. Maybe they're not aware they have the ability to do this, but I think it discredits the employee's efforts. So you have an employee that's outstanding. They kind of is that go-getter, and they're really making some impact to the section or unit or component, and you insult the employee by saying, hey, I'm just going to give you a day off. Well, it took me more than a day to excel above the target point. So by providing me with this QSI, that helps me in several different ways. For example, that not only helps me with having additional income every month, but it also helps me on the back end when I retire, because it puts me in another level when I start getting my retirement annuity. So your step increases or your grade matters towards your high 3 years of salary towards your retirement. And finally, there is also, let's say, bonuses. Depending on the budget year and what's going on with the organization, I've seen bonuses as low as $500 a month. I've seen them as high as $5,000 a month. Agencies are budgeted a little bit differently and have a little bit different latitude than others. I must mention that the sad part about receiving the bonuses is all taxable income. Number one, it is included within your salary for that pay period. So you're in a higher tax bracket, so you be taxed higher, and the bonus is actually also taxable income. So let's say, for example, don't be surprised if you got, let's say, a $1,500 bonus and all you got out of it was maybe $1,000 and change. It all depends on your taxable, for say, income. Well, I hope that this short video was quite informative. Of course, I like to always mention this is not all inclusive. There are a lot of factors to anything in the federal government. So if you have additional comments and questions, please leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll be delighted to answer all of them for you. Again, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to receive notification of other videos. For those that I may not get the opportunity to touch base with, please have a safe and enjoyable holiday season, and have a safe and enjoyable day. Thanks again.